Okay, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to take apart something really interesting. It's not a sermon or a lecture, it's a prayer. And we're going to treat it like a fascinating document, deconstructing it to see how its language and its logic have made it so incredibly powerful for thousands of years.
So the prayer itself makes this incredible claim that its subject, which it calls the Word, is living and powerful. And that really becomes our guiding question. I mean, how can a text from 2,000 years ago be more than just ink on a page? How can it be something active, something potent, right here, right now? Well, that's the mystery we're going to try to unravel today.
You know, you might expect the prayer to start with some really heavy, abstract theology, right? But it doesn't. It starts with something way more direct, way more tangible: metaphors. It defines the word by what it does, and it presents it as a set of really powerful functional tools. And here's the very first tool it gives us. This is probably one of the most famous lines from the source scriptures. But listen, this isn't just some nice poetry. It's doing something very specific. It's framing the text in a very practical way. So what does that mean? Well, the crucial point is that the text is being set up as a kind of navigational device. Think about it. A lamp for your feet is not lighting up the whole forest, just the very next step you need to take. It's all about providing immediate, practical guidance to help you navigate the path right in front of you. It's a metaphor for clarity.
But the prayer doesn't stop with the gentle lamp. The next metaphor gets a whole lot more intense, and frankly, a bit more intimidating. We're not just talking about guidance anymore. This is about precision, this is about action.
And what's so fascinating here is the shift in function. You don't light a path with a sword, right? A sword is for cutting, for dividing, for discerning. The prayer uses this image to argue that the text has this almost surgical quality to it, that it can get right to the heart of the matter, dividing truth from falsehood, even within our own thoughts and intentions.
Okay, so the prayer is laid out what the Word is. It's a guide and it's a surgical tool. That leads to the next logical question, right? If that's what this thing is, how are we supposed to respond to it? Well, the prayer calls for a very, very specific kind of action.
It actually outlines a clear three-step process. It says it's not just about having a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's about heeding the instructions in the text itself. This leads to a specific kind of worship that it calls an acceptable sacrifice of praise. And that word sacrifice is important. It implies a deliberate, maybe even costly action, not just a passive feeling.
And this slide right here, this is the absolute pivot point of the whole prayer. It draws a really sharp line in the sand, pulling directly from the book of James. On one side, you've got the passive listeners, the hearers only, who the text says are basically fooling themselves. And on the other side, you have the active participants, the doers of the work, and they're the ones who find the promised benefit. It's a really powerful call to action.
So what is that promised benefit? What's the so what? I mean, what's the point of being a doer? Well, the prayer is incredibly explicit about this. It doesn't leave you guessing. It promises 4 very specific, very profound internal changes.
And here they are, and just look at these. These aren't small claims, are they? We're talking about a peace that defies all logic, a joy that literally becomes your strength, a hope that acts like an unshakable anchor in a storm, and a love so complete that it actually drives out fear. This is the payoff. This is the promised result of actively engaging with the text.
This one quote really captures the ultimate goal. The whole process isn't just about feeling a little bit better, it's about a fundamental, deep transformation. The prayer argues that by doing the work, a person is gradually changed, remade from glory to glory. It's this vision of a continuous, upward, personal evolution.
But of course, this brings up a huge question. Where on earth does the power for this kind of radical change actually come from? The prayer's logic has a very clear and maybe even counterintuitive answer. It says it doesn't come from just trying harder or from some hidden inner strength.
So first, the prayer establishes this baseline of absolute human limitation. It's a blunt, direct statement of dependence. The argument is simple. On our own, we are completely powerless to achieve this kind of transformation. It's a pretty stark admission of inadequacy.
And then, immediately after saying, "you can do nothing," it hits you with this powerful counterstatement. This creates the central tension and the resolution of the prayer's final argument. Your personal inability is met with this external, divine empowerment. It's a classic setup and punchline.
And this is where it all lands. The prayer's logic concludes that the source of all this strength is entirely external. It argues that this whole process isn't about mustering up more willpower, but about tapping into a divine power that provides everything needed for both life and this transformative godliness. So when you take a step back and look at what we've just walked through, you can see this complete, airtight system of logic. It goes like this. The word is a tool. This tool demands action, not just listening. That action, in turn, leads to transformation, and the power for it all comes from an external, divine source. It's a perfectly self-contained argument.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. This entire prayer is built around a foundational text, and it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are the core texts in our own lives? And they could be religious, philosophical, or even personal, that we use as that lamp to light our own path. It's a really powerful question to think about.